It's John Bipbopboom, and I had a request to show some great new wave of British heavy metal albums. And it's a little tricky because I don't know how many great albums are actually from the new wave of British heavy metal era. And that era is like probably around 1979 to 83. You know, people debate when it starts, when it ends, and it's basically United, mainly England, but the United Kingdom. And it's all those young working class heavy metal bands. And I just love the young working class bands and stuff. But to show great albums is tricky. I think it's mainly a single genre or like the stuff that was on compilations that were put out. But obviously there's quite a few landmark records. But I'm going to try to go through a bunch I picked out. I'm missing quite a few. You know, I didn't pick quite a few. Is still sitting in the collection. I forgot some. I don't own some. So this isn't some sort of like solid list of everything. It's just what I pulled out. And I think I pulled some of the classics first. And I'll go a little deeper. And not every one of these records is great. I enjoy them all. Like enjoyment value, I get 10, like they're worth 10 stars to me. But musically, there might be 2 good tracks on them. Or, you know, it might only be a 5 or 6 star album. But if you like the genre, you know, it's worth it, worth hearing, worth owning. But anyway, obviously, probably number 1 would be the Iron Maiden debut. Just, this is a 10-star album, Paul Di'Anno, classic. And I'm going to go fast because I pulled a bit. Another 10-star record, Venom's debut, Welcome to Hell on Neat Records. Actually, I think this is the Combat version. I used to have the Neat. Maiden's second record, we're going with the classics. This is Diamond Head, Lightning to the Nations, their debut from 1981. Original pressing, not autographed, but from the original 1000 press or whatever it is. Absolute 10-star record. You know, this record, 10 stars because of the historical importance, how great it sounds, and the music on it. This is definitely in the top 3. Welcome to Black Metal Venom, another 10-star record, Neat Records. Angel Witch's debut, probably more of a 9-star record. Their earlier singles are better, but this is still mandatory new wave of British heavy metal. Def Leppard's first album. You know, this isn't my favorite record, but this is absolutely a killer representation of new wave of British heavy metal. Young Def Leppard when it was still a metal band. This is a comp, one of my favorite records of all time, a band called Crucifixion. They put out like an EP, a single or 2, and then a song on a compilation. And it's all on here with all the stuff they recorded. And this is on High Roller. It only came out a few years ago, 2019. This is probably one of my favorite new wave of British heavy metal bands. And if you know my channel, obviously my favorite band is Tank, and this is the first album. I don't want to get into Tank. I show them pretty much every other video. Wonderful trio. Club and Hoof, this is their first album. They had an EP opening Ritual, which may be better than this, but we're just dealing with albums. Not a great record, but it's a really cool record to own, and this is an OG on whatever label this is on. Oh, it's on Neat. Jeez, I should have known that. On Neat Records. And not a perfect record, but historically a 10-star record. Another one of my favorite bands, Spider Rock and Roll Gypsies, Liverpool band, best band out of Liverpool. And this is more boogie rock, the rock and roll side of new wave of British heavy metal. Love this album. What did I do? I might be out of order. Here we go. This is Savage, Loose, and Lethal from Ebony. Not the greatest record, but that track Let It Loose is basically the roots of thrash metal. And no, Ain't No Fit Place. This almost sounds like a mid-80s US metal with the riffs going kind of like that 2 Minutes to Midnight, Curse of the Pharaohs kind of riff going over and over on all these songs. But it is great working class metal. Savage, Loose, and Lethal. Samson, another great band. I could have picked any of them. This is the one with Bruce Dickinson, or one of the 2 with Bruce Dickinson, Head On. And great new wave of British heavy metal, London band. And I love the stuff before, after. I love Samson, but none of them are 10-star records, but they're great. Warfare, this is getting thrashier. This is definitely like more like Venom and Motorhead, and this is Neat Records, Trio, killer, pure filth. And I love all the Warfare records. Vardis, another one of my favorite bands. And I like all their records, but this is the first one, 100 miles an hour, guaranteed no overdubs. It's live. And they're a trio, almost like boogie rock, like Status Quo meets Motorhead. But I really like his simple songwriting. But Steve Zodiac, one of my favorite bands, Vardis. And what do I picked up 2 Vardis. This is maybe their second. This is their first studio album, second album, and it's The World's Insane. I believe it's the second one. It's been a while, and I enjoy this. This is a 10-star record. Tigers of Pantang, second album, Spellbound, which is I should have did it in order, but this is when they changed singers, and they got John Deverell and John Sykes on guitar, and they really upped it, and they became much more classier than the debut. This is a 10-star heavy metal record, and Tigers of Pantang out of Newcastle. And there's the debut. I should have put it in order. Wildcat. This primitive new wave of British heavy metal from the Northeast, and Jess Cox on vocals. Rough, simple vocals, simple songs, wah-wah pedal over these primitive riffs. This is 10-star record and a perfect representation of the new wave of British heavy metal. Another one is, this is more doomy, very Black Sabbath-y. The first album by Witchfinder General, Death Penalty. This is awesome, and this is on Heavy Metal Records. I love the Soviet Invasion EP and the record after that, Friends of Hell. What a great band. They had the riffing, the Sabbath riffing and stuff. And then we're getting into other stuff. Let's see. Pagan Altar. I think this has different covers. This is called Judgment of the Dead, but this is all their 80s output. And it was originally, I think, on a cassette only. And this has different covers. It's been reissued a bunch of times, but this is perfect, like almost outside of metal, doom metal, new wave of British heavy metal. Very like Rainy Day, lonely London in the 70s. Not London, lonely like England, countryside kind of feel. This is a fantastic record, Pagan Altar. Now, this is not a fantastic band. I think they just put out one single, Demon Pact. And this is the kind of stuff you get on High Roller or these comps of all these unknown bands who put out 1 or 2 singles. And Demon Pact and Eaten Alive, these are demos. Oh, no, that's the single, Eaten Alive and Raiders. But you're getting 6 tracks. I think this was reissued by High Roller with more tracks. But it's just working class metal. You get a couple good songs, but I love this stuff. And Satan Caught in the Act. This is their debut album. And this is when Brian Ross from Blitzkrieg joined the band. And it's a good record. But this isn't the best stuff. The best stuff was their early singles and their first demo tape with different singers. I think it was Ian Swift, and then they switched. I think they had Trev Robinson. I can't remember on the demos. But this is Into the Fire, and this is on Buried by Time and Dust. I think maybe High Roller did this, but this is fantastic. And it might have came with the single. I probably pulled it out. But Into the Fire, this is absolutely stellar stuff. Into the Fire, Trial by Fire, Pull the Trigger, Obsession, what was it? The Executioner. But this came with a single, but this Satan early stuff is 10 stars. Chained and Desperate, this is like a low budget. It almost sounds like a demo tape band, but they had Steve Grimmett guest on vocals from Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper, and he's unbelievable singer, and it's almost sounds like he's singing over a primitive demo tape. They handed him the lyrics, and he just went to work. And this is a fun record, no way near a 10-star record, but this is Chateau, if I didn't say that. Chained and Desperate. Does it even say Chateau on there? Huh, it doesn't even say the name of the band. I don't see. That is weird. I never noticed that. But this is Chateau, Chained and Desperate, Ebony Records. Chariot. Now this, you could argue they're outside of it. This is like 84, 85. This is outside of the new wave of British heavy metal. But these guys are from the same era. By the time the album came out, they were a little late. But they have the same ethos, the look, the sound. And this is great working class metal. This is called The Warrior. And there's no standout tracks. It's just meat and potatoes, heavy metal. And I love it. Chariot. Grim Reaper, obviously classic debut that hit the States. This came out on RCA over here, originally Ebony. And this is Steve Grimmett. This is a classic. Most people know this one. Another classic, Girl School's debut, Hit and Run. Right? Hit and Run. No, Demolition. geez, I'm spacing out, but Demolition, awesome girls' school record. Getty's Axe, another band that was singles, only singles and songs on comps, but this is compiles all their stuff on from High Roller, and I really love it. I think they had maybe 2 different singers. I'm not sure, but the tracks are through a couple of years, so it doesn't sound like an album. It sounds like a compilation of songs. Fist, another great band, but their singles are better. But they put out their first album, not as good. They re-recorded some of the singles, but this is still working class. I think they're Newcastle also on Neat Records. And what is this one? Turn the Hell On. And there's some good ones. Hole in the Wall Gang, real raspy voice, rough and raspy. And not a great record, but a great fun record. This is an awesome record, Dumpy's Rusty Nuts. This is a double live album. It's kind of more biker rock, boogie metal. And he was a weird guy, Dumpy. And he had some other EPs and albums, but this really is the best. This is Rough and Ready, and I think, I don't remember, but anyway, this is a great double live biker rock album. Limelight, I don't know why I pulled this. This isn't a great record, a couple good tracks, but this is almost like the proggier, almost sounds like a Rush kind of band. But it's worth seeing if you're into the prog Rush stuff. Limelight. And I think Metal Man was a good rocker. They had a couple good tracks. This isn't new wave of British heavy metal, but it's the crossover between new wave of British heavy metal, the working class stuff, and the thrash metal for the British thrash. This is Artillery, Fear of Tomorrow, and this would be on Neat Records, number 30. So we're getting up there. This is probably like 84, 85. I don't know, but this is a killer record. It still has that feel, the Rough and Ready. This is a band from the Channel Islands. I really like them. Not great, but they have a little doomy, just very isolated, lonely feel. And this is Legend. This is a reissue on High Roller. They put out 2 albums and an EP, and I think they're all great. And they were from the Channel Islands, so they definitely have this like outsider, like they definitely don't have the hipster London feel. They're just more working class. And then this is their second album, and I think there's one, the Lazy Woman, I think is a killer track, but it's an interesting band, Death in the Nursery. And this is put out by Svart, if I remember. I can't remember who did this, but you could look it up. Might be Svart Records. Yeah, Svart. This is a classic, Jaguar. Their singles were better, but this is their debut Power Games on, this is like the Bonsai version. This would be the Canadian, but killer, speedy guitar frenzy kind of new wave of British heavy metal. I love this Rough and Ready band. Holocaust. Actually, this is the album Nightcomers. Fantastic. What are they? From Scotland, Scottish band. And I love it. I love these songs. Their singles were also good, but my favorite is the live album, Hot Curry and Wine. Brilliant, low budget live show of just simple. Actually, it's not a double album. It's a simple, but the Small Hours, Metallica covered, but very primitive, simple heavy metal, but done with a lot of heart. I love Holocaust. Mithra, I think they put out the one EP and they had a song on a comp, maybe. I can't remember, but they definitely did an EP. Oh, they were on. They want a compilation, yeah. But Mithra, this compiles all their stuff called Death and Destiny, and this is Buried by Time and Dust album. But I think this might be reissued on other things. But killer, at least the first 4 that were released, Death and Destiny, killer band, Mithra. More a working class, kind of meat and potatoes, nothing special, heavy metal band. The first album is a rare exception where the second album is better than the first, and this is the second album. Don't let this cover deceive you, but it's great meat and potatoes, heavy metal by Moore. And the original singer, was he on this one? Was Paul Mario Day, who was one of the early singers of Iron Maiden. He's on the first album, if I recall. Metal Mirror, a band that put out a single, but they reissued all their stuff on 2 albums, but High Roller did. You might be able to get it all on 1 record now, but the thing is, you need English Booze and Rock and Roll Ain't Never Gonna Leave Us, 2 killer songs, real drunk, like bar rock, real raspy, almost punkish heavy metal, and you could get both. These albums aren't great, but it's just brilliant stuff. Razorback Killers, English Booze. I love it, man. Raven, I could pick any Raven record. I'll pick Rock Until You Drop, the early Raven on Neat Records. Athletic rock, just over the top. Fantastic, speedy, killer heavy metal. Everyone knows Raven, but I love those early stuff. This is not New Wave of British Heavy Metal. This is like 77, but this is one of my favorite records. Quartz, I think came out self-titled, but in the 80s they issued as deleted in this bag. But this is a Birmingham working class band, closer to Sabbath, heavy at times. This is produced by Nwobhm. I think I've talked about this before, but I love this record. But it's not 80s metal, it's more 70s hard rock metal. But their album after this, Stand Up and Fight, is killer straight up metal. File It With Like More. It's heavy. It's got some great songs. Wildfires, Stoking Up the Fires of Hell. I'd say it's an 8-star record, but I really love this band. And they had an EP before that. I shouldn't show any EPs, but since it was there, it's 3 songs. I forget how many songs. Maybe only 3 songs. But Satan Serenade, killer. And this could be had for, it's still pretty cheap for what it is on Logo Records. But awesome song. This ties in the 70s to the 80s. This is like total new wave of British heavy metal. Satan Serenade. And here's another one. Not my favorite band, but this is a great record. Tokyo Blade, their first album. A little bit like Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, just straight up 80s metal. But they were there right from day one. And cool band. And then last, and definitely Sledgehammer, a weird kind of band. They had this great single self-titled called Sledgehammer. It's on a lot of comps. They recorded that same song like maybe 4 different times. This is the album. Kind of weird heavy metal. It's like almost a guitar player, singer, and it almost reminds me like the Stranglers version of heavy metal or something, but not a great band, but a working bar club band with a couple of cool songs. And that's about it. There's tons of other things I could have pulled, but that's just about it. There's a lot of high roller stuff of bands that had great songs but couldn't put out a great album or couldn't even put out a great compilation album. But that's why the singles are the best, or you get the comps. But hopefully that, and sample anything before you look into it and drop money, because, well, I love it all and I get enthusiastic, but it may realistically just be mediocre or something. But cheers all.